You made it, and the first person you called was your mom, and she was proud. You could hear it in her voice, the kind of proud that has been waiting for years to have a reason to exist. And you sat there holding the phone and smiling and feeling something you did not expect to feel in that moment. Alone. Not lonely exactly. Something more specific than that. The feeling of standing in a room that nobody who raised you has ever stood in. The feeling of speaking a language that the people you love do not speak. The feeling of having crossed a line that cannot be uncrossed and realizing for the first time that lines work in both directions. They let you in somewhere, and they leave something behind. This is the story nobody tells about making it. The getting there part has 1,000 narratives. The grinding, the sacrifice, the moment it clicks, the account balance that finally says something different. Everyone loves that part. That part makes sense. That part has a shape, but the part that comes after, the part where you are standing on the other side and looking back and realizing the distance is greater than you thought, that part does not have a name yet. And it does not have a support group. And it does not come up at dinner because dinner is the problem. Let us start there, at the table, because the table is where it becomes real. You go home for the holidays. You have been gone 6 months, 8 months, a year. Long enough that something has shifted in the way you move through the world, the way you talk about time, the way you think about problems, the way you order at a restaurant without looking at the right side of the menu first. These are small things, invisible things, until you are sitting at a table with people who know you better than anyone, and they can see that something is different, even if they cannot name it. And you can see them seeing it, and nobody says anything, and the silence has a texture. Your cousin makes a joke about your new life. It lands somewhere between affectionate and sharp. You laugh because laughing is easier than explaining. Your uncle asks how much you make now with the particular directness that only comes from people who have never been taught that the question is complicated. You give a number or you deflect, and either way something changes in the room. Not dramatically, just slightly. The way a temperature changes when a window opens. Everyone feels it. Nobody acknowledges it. This is the first tax of first-generation wealth that nobody puts on the brochure. The social recalibration. The way your presence at a family gathering starts to carry a charge it did not used to carry. You did not ask for the charge. You did not create it intentionally. But it is there, in the extra beat before someone asks you for something. In the way certain conversations stop when you walk in. In the assumption, sometimes spoken and sometimes not, that you have resources that belong to everyone because you came from everyone, and therefore what you have is not entirely yours. The money requests are their own chapter, and they come in every shape. The direct ones are almost easier. Can you help with rent this month? Can you cover mom's procedure? Can you loan me something to get through until? These you can answer. These have edges. The harder ones are the ones that are not requests at all. They are just facts delivered in your direction. The car broke down. The landlord raised it again. The kids need supplies for school. And you are supposed to hear the fact and convert it into an action, and the conversion is supposed to feel natural because family. And sometimes it does feel natural. And sometimes it feels like a role you did not audition for that you cannot leave, because leaving would mean something about who you are and where you came from, and whether the success changed you. And then there is the other side, the new world you are supposedly entering. Because here is what the fantasy of making it looks like from the outside. You earn enough. You cross the threshold. And suddenly you are among your people. The successful people. The people who understand compound interest and equity, and the difference between an asset and a liability. You imagined a room and you imagined being let into it. The room exists. But the door is different than you thought, because the people in that room have a language too. And their language was built over generations. It is in the schools they went to, and the clubs their parents belonged to, and the summers they spent in places that have names you recognize from magazines. It is in the way they talk about money as something that has always been there, like weather, like furniture, something you manage rather than something you chase. And you can learn the vocabulary. You are smart enough for that. You have always been smart enough for that. But vocabulary is not fluency, and fluency is not belonging. And belonging is the thing the room actually runs on. You are not poor enough to be relatable to where you came from. You are not legacy enough to be invisible in the new world. You exist in a gap that has no community built around it. No handbook, no elder who has been exactly here and can tell you how to stand. This is the loneliness that first-generation wealth produces that is genuinely unlike any other kind of loneliness, because it is invisible from both directions. The people back home think you have everything now. The people in the new world assume you always had enough to get here. Neither story is true, but neither story has space for the truth. So you carry it quietly. You perform comfort in rooms where you feel like an outsider. You perform humility in rooms where you feel like a fraud. And somewhere between the two performances, you try to remember who you actually are. There is also the guilt. And the guilt is complicated because it is not simple survivor guilt. It is not just I made it and others did not. It is more tangled than that. It is the guilt of wanting things for yourself, of spending money on something that is purely for you without immediately calculating who else could have used it, of building a life that looks different from the one you came from without being sure whether different means better or just further away. It is the guilt of noticing that you think differently now, that the way you see risk has changed, that the way you see time has changed, that you have started to have opinions about things that would have seemed absurd to the version of you that wore a too big jacket to school. And the guilt is not about the opinions. It is about the distance the opinions represent. Every new thought is also a small departure. And yet, there is something on the other side of all of this that is also true. You are building something that did not exist before. Not just a bank account, a template, a proof of concept, a new data point in the story your family tells about what is possible. Your younger cousin is watching you, maybe without knowing they are watching, maybe without knowing what they are looking for. But they are looking, and what you are showing them, just by existing in the way you exist, is that the coordinates can change, that the zip code you were born into is not a life sentence, that the story your family has been living is not the only story available. That is not nothing. That is enormous. Even when it is lonely, even when it is complicated, even when you are sitting at a holiday table, laughing at a joke that lands somewhere between affectionate and sharp, and feeling the gap between who you were and who you are, and not being entirely sure which one is more real. You did not just make money. You made a new possibility for people who have your last name, for people who have your story. For people who are 7 years old right now in circumstances that look like yours did, and who need to see that the ending is not fixed. You are the first. That means there is no map. That means the loneliness is structural, not personal. That means the gap you feel is not a flaw in your success. It is the cost of being the one who goes first. Someone has to be first. And first is always the hardest place to stand. But it is also the most important.